guys, so welcome to Suitcase Divas podcast. My name is Denise Diabaldi with Redbirds Travel.
And I'm Cheryl Garcia with ABCD Adventures.
Yes, so guys, we are at episode 38. And so this one is, you've been here before, you've heard us talk about it from Reddit, travel Reddit. Am I the asshole? So we're going to go over some scenarios and you can, tag along with us and decide if you think they are the asshole or not. So let's get to it. The first one is, am I the asshole because I don't want to take my stepson on vacation? My husband and I have been married for 5 years. We have 2 children of our own, both girls aged 5 and 2. I also have a 10-year-old from a previous marriage, but I was widowed. My husband's ex barely is involved in the stepson's life at all. By the way, he is, for reference, he's 9. So he's only a year younger than her 10-year-old. So they got divorced when the stepson was 2 and his ex wanted a fresh start. So my husband did the decent thing and the selfless thing and had complete custody of their son, even though he wanted shared custody. I got a bonus at work and I really want to go on vacation with just my family for just once. We've been a family on vacations together lots of times, but I just wanted to spend my money going on vacation when I'm not looking after someone else's kid. I want the stepson to stay with his mom while we go on vacation. My husband sees my point and says he's okay with it. I don't think I'm being unreasonable at all. Well, my mom found out what I was planning and says that I am being an asshole. These are the reasons she says. She says if a stepson's mom isn't properly involved in his life, then I should be even more involved in his life to compensate. And I think this is a completely unfair expectation. She also says I'm being a hypocrite taking my son, who's 10, but think it's totally different because he doesn't have another. But I think it's totally different because he doesn't have another parent. I'm all he's got. If the stepson's mom won't take him for once, then obviously he'll just come along with us. I don't think I'm an asshole if I can have the vacation of my own just this one time. It's not like I hate my stepson or something. He's a nice kid. He's just not mine. Am I the asshole?
There's a lot to unpack on this.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. So your opinions first. You want to give yours? This is going to be interesting.
Okay. So she absolutely is the asshole. Absolutely.
I agree. I will just straight off the bat say I agree. She's the asshole for sure.
Yeah, I think you would have a strong case to prove to say that she was not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm open to anybody's opinion, but I just think, her stepson's 9, her son's 10. They probably get along as a family too. So that is kind of like taking his little playmate out of the equation. They're all
right.
So I absolutely, and imagine how that boy would feel being like everybody else is going on this fun vacation, but you're going off to your stepmom, to your mom's, who doesn't even want you and has left you at the age of 2 to be with your dad and this family.
Right.
So we're all going to have a great time. And you just stay with a practical stranger that's your mom because she's your blood relative. And I don't feel like taking you on the trip. Like, no, that's not okay. And that little boy would probably be devastated.
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of red flags in what she said here because she starts off saying that we have children of our own, which I get sometimes. I come from a blended family. And as you know, because you've asked me before, how are they your family? Because I just call them all my siblings. I never really identify.
Right.
And my parents have never really made that an issue. So, but she says this part, she's like, I have a son from a previous marriage, but I was widowed. He's divorced, but I was widowed. I felt like that was kind of like a little jab. And then they go on and she kind of makes a slam about, the ex-wife taking a fresh start and my husband doing the decent, selfless thing. No, he did the dad thing. He did the parent thing and took responsibility for his kid.
Responsible parent thing. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she says, I want to go on vacation with just my family just once. First of all, your family includes the father of this kid. That's his family. So This kid's lived with you since he's 2 and you don't see him as your kid. And I don't know how. I know some blended families, they, differentiate between who can discipline, who can make rules, whatever. But it sounds like she started this with.
Let's talk about So she's 38 years old. I know sometimes we don't talk about age, but she sounds pretty immature for a 38-year-old that has a 9-year-old stepson that's been living with them since he was 2 years old.
Right.
So, and even her mom was like, "You're the asshole," and here's
Well,
what.
and I wonder what her husband thinks, because she says, she says, my mom says I'm being a hypocrite for taking my son, but I think it's totally different because my son doesn't have another parent. They've been together for 7 years.
Right.
And so her kid would have been 3 when they got together.
Okay.
So she's not and this is an assumption on my part, has she not let her husband be a father to her son?
Yeah,
Because
that's interesting. And I bet she has. And I bet he is because he's
right.
that guy because he took his own son at 2 or 3 and has raised him without much help from the mom at all.
I will say, most of the people voted she was the asshole, but she did have a follow-up. You want to read the follow-up?
That was a no-brainer, by the way. She absolutely was the
For sure.
So, okay, so she said, we definitely won't be going on the vacation without my stepson. After a couple hours of replies, which were pretty harsh, by the way, I decided to show this to my husband. We sat down and had a really long talk about it. He told me he's never been comfortable with my attitude towards my stepson, but he didn't know how to say that to me before. So it was a good talking point.
Right.
I don't want to be a bad person. I just never thought of a stepchild as being yours. I don't think it would be easy for anyone to accept this level of criticism, but all your replies have shown me that I have a lot of work to do. And as many of you have suggested, and so did my husband, I intend to see a therapist to help me with that. That is great news. That's what she needs to be doing. As I said, I don't hate my stepson in any way. I've never deliberately been cruel to him. I've just always thought of him as my husband's child, but I realize this mindset needs to change. So I'm starting to work on that. I want my family to be the best they can. And I need to accept that that includes my stepson. I understand now, and I'm going to start seeing the therapist to become a better person, and having a better, when we're talking about family therapy too. I've made up with my mom, and she's 100% behind the changes I want to make in my life. It wasn't easy to hear everything you guys said, but I understand that I needed to hear it. So, yay.
Yes.
I mean, we're
big
all
round of applause to her, because that's
stepping it up, seeing the error of her ways, and wanting to be a better person and a better stepmom and have a better family.
and I hope she works on how she describes her stepson, because she says, I've never been deliberately cruel. So does that mean you're like you're just not as nice to him? And
red flag statement. But
yeah.
kudos to her for wanting to become a better person and be willing to work on herself. So
And she recognized that this isn't the norm, that this is to be a fully functional family, they all have to be included. So good for her. I think this one has somewhat of a happy ending, because
yes, agreed.
they're talking about therapy, because I'm sure that little kid needs it. I'm sure he's felt those vibes. So good for them all around.
Yeah, and interesting that a travel situation brought up a really good talking place, and going to group therapy,
Right.
I'm a huge advocate of mental wellness. There should be absolutely no stigma attached to going to therapy, seeing a therapist, getting help. If you need to be put on meds, I say do that.
Right.
We're all just trying to make it day to day, and you need to take care of your mental wellness. And I'm glad
Absolutely.
that on that. So kudos to her.
Yeah. So let me read you the next Am I the Asshole?
This one's interesting.
It is interesting. Am I the asshole for leaving my boyfriend at the airport after he pranked the TSA with a dildo? This little headline caught my attention. So, hey everyone. Hey everyone. I, 20 female, I will say their ages in here because I think it's relevant. I, 20 female, really need some outside perspective on whether I was too harsh on my boyfriend, 29, because of a recent incident. My boyfriend loves practical jokes, and while some are genuinely funny, others can be a bit much. For example, he once switched all my skincare products with mayonnaise, and another time he filled my car with balloons. It's usually all in good fun, but sometimes it goes a bit too far. We planned this amazing vacation to the Caribbean, something I had been looking forward to for months. Everything was going smoothly until we got to the airport. Right before going through airport security, my boyfriend thought it would be hilarious to pull another prank. This time, he decided to stuff a dildo down his pants to make it look like he was unusually well endowed. As you can imagine, the security scanners picked up on something odd and he was pulled aside for a pat down. When the TSA agents asked him if he was carrying anything he shouldn't be, he yelled out, "I have a big piece and I'm going to use it," in what I guess he thought was a funny tone. Literally everybody turned and looked at us, and it was so awkward. A
Yeah.
couple other TSA guys ran towards him. Then he pulled out the dildo and proudly announced, "That's my big piece." While the TSA didn't find it funny, both of us were taken to a back room and interrogated for over an hour, which led to us missing our flight. The agents weren't amused, and they even gave us a stern lecture on security and appropriateness. I
So,
was so upset and embarrassed by the whole ordeal that I decided I couldn't handle going on the vacation anymore. So instead of waiting for the next available flight, I just went home. My boyfriend was annoyed and said I was overreacting since it was just a joke and that we could just catch another flight. However, I felt like the prank crossed a line, especially considering the setting and the stress it caused. So, Reddit, we're asking divas. So, divas, am I the asshole for deciding to go home and miss out on our vacation because I couldn't deal with another potential joke or embarrassment? What's your thoughts, Denise, on that one?
well, so I I personally I don't think she's the asshole because it's her she's entitled to her feelings. Her feelings are valid.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, it sounds like this guy has an issue with doing practical jokes, and maybe he needs to have a little sit down and they need to have an actual couples conversation about this.
Right.
Bad that she's been looking forward to this vacation and she's not going because she's so afraid that he's going to do something else. What if he pulls some shit like this in another country and
Exactly.
back through the border because you've done something that's illegal in that country? You have to
Mm-hmm.
be careful. TSA and the security in the airports, it needs to be there for a reason. So
Right.
there's certain times to pull pranks and certain times not to. And I would just advise you all to not be doing it in an airport because
Right.
they don't fuck around. Like
Exactly.
they
Well, and not, I agree with you. I do not think she's the asshole. And I think she was valid in not wanting to go on this trip with him. And I think he had some major repairs to do in their relationship. I also think he doesn't know, or because this one really kind of grabbed my, when she said he once switched all her skincare products with mayonnaise, and then another time he filled my car with balloons. Those are two very
very different.
different styles of pranks. That first of all, your skincare products are expensive. You could have a reaction. Like that's just there's a very big so I don't think he knows
Sounds
how
like
his
he's
pranks are received.
29 years old.
That's why I did say the age because she's 20, he's 29, and he should know by now. I think that you don't do that at TSA. I have seen the jokes where someone will pack a toy in someone else's suitcase and then it will flag. TSA, they're
Still, I
used to
wouldn't
that.
do that. I wouldn't do any of that in an airport.
I agree with you, but there's a big difference between putting it in your pants and saying that's I got a big piece, I'm going to use it, or whatever his
A gun
exact words were.
could also be known as a gun. So that's
Exactly.
you can't. You just there's certain times that's not funny. I would have been mortified as well. And I don't know if I would have left, but I sure as hell because it sounds like he went on the trip either way. So he still got to take advantage and go on the trip, and then she's losing out on her trip
Mhm.
because she's embarrassed. But I think I would have gone on the trip and just ghosted him the whole time.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
'cause I'm not losing out on my trip.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I totally think she's not in the wrong. Now, I feel bad that she decided to run away instead of like kind of confront it and be like, this is not okay and I'm not okay with you. And when I feel like talking about it, I will. But
Well,
until
and she didn't say how long they were going to be gone, right? I think a difference between like a 7-day vacation versus a quick getaway weekend. I don't know that I could have stayed with someone in another country for 7 days and not let myself.
yeah, they don't really go into detail what those circumstances are.
Right.
I 100% do not think that she's an
Oh, I
asshole in that.
agree. Yeah. Oh, this next one's kind of touchy also. Like, I'm curious. So I'll let you, will you read the next one for us?
I'm here for it. All right. My boyfriend's dad passed away, and the funeral was scheduled for a day that I will be on vacation. My trip is non-refundable, and I could not reschedule. So I told my boyfriend I'd have to miss the funeral. He seemed okay with it, but then he dropped the bombshell that he's not renewing our lease and will be living with his mom instead. Now I have no place to live because of him, but he thinks I'm the one being an asshole. I think I might I think I might be an asshole for canceling the vacation not to go to my boyfriend's dad's funeral. So am I
Read
the
that part again. I think I might, because she did not cancel.
I think I might be an asshole for not canceling a vacation to go to my boyfriend's dad's funeral. So she went on the vacation,
Right. And not the funeral.
essentially said, I'm not renewing the lease. So what are
What are
your
yours? Okay. That's so funny.
you go first? So I'm making you go first.
Yeah, this one was difficult because I actually saw this on TikTok. I didn't see what everybody was, but it was more elaborate. But when I went to look it up on Reddit, they didn't have all the details. It wasn't available. Basically, this is the gist of it, though. But she had saved this money and been waiting to go on this trip for a while, and there was no way to get the money back. And the funeral took place like a while after the dad had passed because of holidays and stuff like that. It was when it could be the best timing. I struggle with this. I think I honestly would have canceled. I'm not going to say she's an asshole because we all have different priorities. Here's my thought. We have no idea her financial situation. This one could have been her whole entire savings she used on this, and to just kind of push that away. And this is her boyfriend, not her husband. These are not her. We don't know how long they've been together. We don't know.
I would want more before I made an informed decision, just based on it. I think
This is hard. Yeah.
she's insensitive, I would say that. But we don't know all the factors. We don't know how expensive the trip was. And then why isn't he going on the trip with her? It sounds like they're not like
She was
why
going on a girls' trip. I will say this was a girls' trip that had been planned for a long time. She had saved up with it with her friends. They were all good and fine. His dad passed away unexpectedly before Thanksgiving.
okay.
He stayed with his mom and his siblings throughout the holidays, and then it happened to fall the day after she was supposed to leave. And she did try to reschedule. She tried to go later. Nothing would do that without her losing money, and her friends didn't want to do all that.
If he was really upset, he should have been honest with her because she said in it, she said, I told him
Right.
about the situation. He seemed okay with it. Like, so if he was like, yeah, go, babe, I understand. It sucks. Sounds like he's pretty tight with his mom too, which
Right.
but if he's, and you don't know how much his mom is like, she's awful. She doesn't care. Come move in with me.
Yeah, we don't know. I do think it's awful that he just packed up and left, but she can't say now I have no place because of him, because that's not accurate. Y'all should have either had the lease. There's so many things, but we always deep dive into these way more than just the question.
Was not enough information. Like you knew more about it from TikTok because I don't really go on TikTok.
Yeah.
Without having all of the proper background information, it's hard to make a decision on this one because he did say he was okay with it, and then he clearly was not being honest that he
Right.
was not okay with it. It sounds like, I don't know that I would call her an asshole in that
I
situation.
agree.
I think it's because I don't have all the information, and that one's kind of a tricky one. It's unfortunate, but even though you said, like, now that I know this, the extra information that it was a prolonged experience from when the funeral was, she probably thought, oh, if he died in Thanksgiving and my trip's not till January or whatever, I've got time or whatnot.
It wasn't that long, but it was still like, I know that my husband and my girls have had to go to a funeral that I didn't go to because I had other things I had to take care of. So, but it was a conversation we had, and the funeral is for the people of the past, the person who's passed. And if he said, I'm okay, they seem to have had some kind of communication, not very good communication.
Or not truthful communication. And
Right.
factored in. If he's telling me to go, I'm probably going to go.
I feel that way too. I think depending on the situation, I would have told my spouse to go. I was like, go on the trip. I'm going to be with my family. We're going to do our thing. You can come and see my mom, see whomever later. I think I would have done something like that as well. I wouldn't have wanted that person to be out the money because if I had a support group, if he didn't have a support group, that's different.
It sounds like he doesn't. If he's moving back in with his mom, then I don't think that's a big support system outside.
This is funny because I feel like we're kind of, there's no clear answer on some of these.
Not enough information in this one, but given what we know, I don't think she's an asshole because he said to go, he said he was okay with it, and then he clearly was not, but he should have been with her about his feelings from the get-go. So I don't think she was an asshole. I think it was an unfortunate scenario or situation, but I'm gonna call her like
not the asshole. Yeah. I agree. All right, so this next one, the title brought me in, but it is so long. I'm probably going to paraphrase a lot of it and I might have to bounce back, but it is very long. The title is, Am I the asshole for booking a trip and letting someone sleep on the couch? And I grabbed it because you and I have gone on group trips, we've together and individually with other groups, and where people sleep is such a big conversation that should be had. It's not always had. So here's what she says. She does say, this is my first time posting on here, so I'm sorry I'm not a great person for writing or storytelling. I tend to drift off into other stories, so I'll try to keep it on track, but please read and help me understand if I'm really in the wrong here. That was such a good warning because she absolutely went off on multiple stories. So I'm going to try to break it down.
Break it down, Cheryl.
Here she goes. Everything was planned at least 4 to 5 months in advance to this concert I had decided to go to. Not a lot of people know this artist as he's pretty new and up and coming, so I decided to reach out into this Facebook group or Facebook page for girls in or around the city I'm currently living in. And 3 other girls wanted to come with, and I had met 2 of the 3 girls before the trip. So she went on a trip with 3 girls she had never met up until that moment. Like she says she met 2 before the trip and I guess 1 on.
So that was their first time traveling together.
Yeah, she didn't know them. They had no relationship up until planning this trip. Right there, pause. You need to think about that. Just because you're going with all girls or all the same sex or whatever doesn't mean it's the most smart thing to do. Okay. She goes on to say, I had planned everything from tickets to where we'd be staying and even offered to drive everyone if they helped with the gas, as the concert was going to be in a city 2 hours away. I had also prepaid for everything on my credit card and said the only condition is they pay me back before the month of the concert. I put in the group chat that we had made choices of Airbnbs we could decide to stay in, as I didn't want to book something the weekend of, and I'd rather have something secured at least a month before. Okay, so that's a little confused. Let me reread that again.
But it sounds like trying to be prepared, but
right. Before we left for the concert, and some of the girls even offered to sleep on a couch if there wasn't enough beds. So the Airbnb we booked came with 1 queen size bed and 2 double beds as bunk beds. We had all decided on this place to stay, so someone was going to have to share a bed or sleep on the couch, which we were all aware, but because we had booked several months in advance, we forgot that there were only 3 beds, and the pictures made it seem like there were 4 beds. Queen size bed, 2 double beds. That's 1, 2. You could fit 6 people, and there's only 4 of them.
These ladies wanted to share a bed with anybody.
They didn't know each other, so I could understand that. Yeah.
As well.
Okay.
But I think that's the red flag number 1 right there.
So she goes on, because I'm going to skip the whole. She goes on to say, like I had mentioned, I'd only met 2 of the 3 girls I was traveling with. We'll call these girls Anne, Ruby, and Violet. Nothing crazy happened on the way to the city we were going to, just quiet anticipation. And once we got to the Airbnb, Anne and Ruby grabbed their bags first and go into the Airbnb. I grabbed mine and Violet right after me. The Airbnb was a basement suite. While going downstairs, to the left was a bathroom on the left wall, along with a bedroom with a double bunk bed, and right at the end of the hall. Okay, I see. There's no periods or commas, guys. Sorry. It's all one sentence. Let me read that again. I grabbed mine and Violet came in right after me. The Airbnb was a basement suite, and going down the stairs to the left was a bathroom on the left wall, along with a bedroom with a double bunk beds. Right at the end of the hall was a bookshelf, and on the right was the biggest room with the queen bed and laundry. And to the right of the stairs was the living room and kitchen. Once I go inside, I noticed the room right across from the stair entrance was empty, so I went in there and placed my bag on the bed, which was the queen. Right. That was the queen. Violet went down the hall and then went to the living room and set her bag on the couch. We all walked out of our rooms and noticed Violet settling onto the couch, and all just confused because we had all forgotten there were not 4 beds. Violet was shrugging and saying it was fine. The couch was comfy, so we thought we'd just let it go. They all set up in their areas and decided to go shopping, as the concert was until Sunday, and they had driven up Saturday morning. So the next part, I'm going to kind of...
Okay, let me just stop right there.
Okay, this is a lot.
Part of this, a lot of the problems on travel vacations, especially with acquaintances, or if you're not like super besties or whatever, there was definitely a lack of communication. If she shrugged and was like, right. Because honestly, the 2 girls that maybe met could have slept in one bed, and she could have had the top bunk and had her own bed if they had a discussion about it.
Right.
The first thing was not standing up and being like, I'd really prefer to have a bed, like I'm paying y'all. I want a bed. And they could have sorted it and had a grown up discussion at that point, but that didn't happen.
Well, and I want to say, even though she was the one that booked everything, she did send the link and the information to the other 3 girls. They had access to double check and see what was available at this Airbnb. And I know when we've booked group trips and the info, if we're not the bookers, people send it to us. We go and look and see what to expect when we get there. So while she was the one that booked it, they all knew what they were going into at least a month before. So they have to take some accountability here. So let's go to the night. So they're checking in Saturday morning, and Sunday's the concert. So it looks like Saturday night they decided to go out for drinks, and they all got pretty drunk. Good for them. Go have fun, ladies. The problem that turns up is
there.
What? Say that again.
They were meeting a guy that lived there, and he was kind of taking them out to the bar and showing them the ways, that type of deal. That's
right. Yeah, but the gist was that they went drinking, they had fun, and the 4 girls go back to their Airbnb.
Yep.
They all kind of go and crash in their bed while Violet was crashing on the couch. What they didn't do was make sure she didn't have blankets and pillows, and it was freezing. They didn't adjust it. So they ended up, she rightfully was kind of upset. Hey guys, I didn't have a blanket. I didn't have a pillow. And the poster said we should have done a little bit better. We should have done some pre-planning before we went out. But also, Violet, come on now. You got to take some responsibility. You see an empty couch. The first thing you should say is, where are my blankets and my pillows? Like, how are we doing this before y'all go out partying? Exactly. So then it goes on. The poster says she went and got breakfast for the girls the next day.
Even though she was severely hungover. Like they
were hungover. She goes to get some stuff, and Violet had a gluten allergy. So where she was at, she couldn't get Violet's thing. So she calls Violet and says, hey, this is what they have, which happened to be chili. Are you good with that? Or do you want me to go somewhere else? She offered to go somewhere else. Violet said, I'm fine. This is important because this comes in later. Violet's like, I'm fine. So they all go back, have breakfast. Everything seems to be going fine. I think it goes on that they took a nap and they made sure she had what she needed. They end up going around, do some other stuff. They go to the concert. The poster had asked, she paid for, I guess, the Uber, and she had asked for money from all the girls, yada, yada. This goes on. Again, it's not clear communication. She's just saying, hey guys, this is what it's going to cost each of us. Can you guys give me money? They go on. It seems like they had a pretty decent time. Okay, time going back to, there's more, but it really, we don't need to dig into that. I'm scrolling a whole page here. So we're going to get to the time they get back. When they get back after being home for a couple days, this is where we're going to pick up.
I think is important to add in there, though. The one girl, her boyfriend was picking her up after the concert. So the second night, Violet did have a bed because the one girl went home with. So she did get a bed the second night.
And someone had offered to share a room with Violet. They offered to share a bed with Violet. So she was given all of that opportunity. The first night was kind of sucky. No doubt about it. She got stuck with the couch. She didn't have blankets and pillows. We totally see the irritation there. She never spoke up, that kind of thing. So then we get into their back being home, and the poster originally says, I had reminded Violet a couple times about the $20 for the ride home, and she kept saying she will as soon as she gets back or as soon as she gets the cash. Someone else had also not paid her. Goes on and on about the difference between this and that. Violet ends up kind of nitpicking the money. I pay, this is what I paid for, but this is what I got. I didn't get to eat breakfast. I had to sleep on a couch. I was cold. She told me there was no point to fill up my gas tank twice, but my car is a little hatchback. We drove 2 hours to get to the city along with 2 days of driving around.
At that point, things started getting nasty between them.
Yeah, and Violet was really kind of nitpicking where the money was going and this and that. What I didn't understand is, did all this come about for just the $20, or had the Airbnb been paid for?
That after they got home and Violet was back in her own situation, and it sounds like the more she thought about it, the angrier she got, and the more hot she was about the thing. And not only at that point was she saying, I'm not paying you the $20 because I got shit on for the sleeping arrangements and all that stuff. But then she also claims that she gave her a $50 bill for breakfast and she only got chili, which she didn't even want, but she was trying not to. So essentially she's like, I had a really shitty time and I don't feel like I owe you the $20. At that point, I personally would have been like, it's $20.
Right.
So, right. You're probably
right. Yeah. That's where, so let's see so here's the question that the poster is asking. After all of this description and telling us this story, she goes down, this is what she says. My friend Anne, which is one of the girls on the trip, and I had talked about it at brunch. I'm going to skip this part. She talks about, well, no, I'll read it. She says, I also deal with anxiety, and since having that posted about myself and having my name dragged through the mud, I'm seriously wondering, am I the asshole? So apparently Violet had posted some stuff on social media about the situation. Was I being too self-absorbed and not checking on everyone else throughout this trip? Was I the asshole for expecting that we were all adults, and if someone had an issue, we'd just talk about it? Was I the asshole for not remembering to give change back? Anne and I both came to the consensus that if you're giving someone a larger bill, that you don't think you'd want to keep track of it. Or don't you think you'd want to keep track of it? Because I know for us, if it was our money, we'd just be straight up and be like, hey, I gave you this much, where's my change? Instead of thinking the other person's going to remember. Also, we are all adults. If something is bothering you, wouldn't you want to let everyone else know, or at least one person in the group, so someone can help you resolve the issue? I don't know, guys. I know this is a lot to read, but I think I may just be thinking on my behalf on what I would have done had I been in her shoes. But what do you think? Am I the asshole? I'm so confused by this entire story. Like, what?
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Again, lack of communication is a problem.
Right.
I do feel Violet got fucked over with a sleeping situation, but a lot of that came to be because she said that it was okay that she had the couch. She didn't resource any pillows or blankets. I mean, if they're all adults here, and it sounded like she was not happy about the whole thing, but never really was kind of like Flower, just didn't say anything, didn't stand up for herself, didn't advocate. Yeah, I do think the main girl is a bit self-absorbed because she's just doing her own thing, shopping, takes the main bedroom without asking if anybody wants to share it. got wasted that night, was hungover the next day, which she might not have even made the concert. I mean, you got to be a little more responsible than that.
Well,
And I
they
get it.
all were. It says in there, they all were drunk. They all had gone out drinking. I also think as the planner, you should get first dibs for the most part, of which will lead us into other, I won't go into that because we do talk about this later on
Is this
about how,
we will discuss for further episodes?
right. So I love this. I love this whole story. It was a lot, and I had to weed through to try to find what question was she really asking about being the asshole. So I feel like she asked, am I being the asshole for being self-absorbed and not checking on everyone? I don't think she was, and here's why.
They're
She
all
invited 3 people she didn't know. She says, I'm going to provide you a location and transportation to this thing that we're going to go. I don't know you. This is what we're doing. That's
and
what
it's
she did.
options of Airbnbs. They all decided together, this is the Airbnb that we agreed that we're going to stay at.
Right.
They had some input. It sounds like they had some input.
Well, and even if she did, she was just like, hey guys, I'm going. I don't want to go by myself. I'm opening this up, but just to have companions, but we don't have to be each other's besties. Like she just organized a place to stay and an activity.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's her responsibility to check on. She was not the host. She was the organizer. There's a very big difference between being a host as either the friend of the group that put this together, or just she's the person that just threw it all together. I think there's a difference there. So I don't think it's her responsibility to make sure these 3 adults that she barely knows are managing.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. I don't think she's an asshole there. I will say there's definitely a lack of communication. That's the
Right.
biggest problem. Personally, I think where she went wrong was just not letting the $20 go. It sounds like she hounded her and she hounded her, and then they became a feud on Facebook.
Right.
Cutting out of the chat, saying swear words, calling her like the C word.
I know. I skipped over that part. Yeah.
She was aggressive when she got back home. She was a wildflower while she was there.
Mhm.
And she shrugged. But then
Right.
and when she got home, you know how people can be on the internet when you're just talking and
You're not in the moment. Yeah.
right. So the poster said she posted about me on the internet saying I was a scammer, and she gave everybody my name. I tried to defend myself. Then everybody was attacking me. It became way out of control. Like
And
it
I
could
do think the poster for sure is young. And she did say,
yeah, and
the,
immature.
but that comes with age and thinking. And I disagree though, because I think the poster is mature because she says, was I the asshole for expecting that we were all adults, and if someone had an issue, we talk about it? So she went into this saying, I'm taking adults with me. I gave them the opportunity. I'm assuming if there's a problem, they'll tell me. So
I
to
think I meant
me, she would say if she had a problem.
the $20, I would have let it go. That's where I think she's being a little immature. Like, you know what? There were situations you did organize it after all.
Right.
Just let the $20 go. But it
I
sounded like
agree with you there. Yeah.
persistent about it. That's where I'm saying the lack of maturity was not there, because it sounded like she was like, no, I want my money. Give me my money.
Yeah.
Give me
But
$20.
it does say also others hadn't paid her. So maybe she was doing that with everybody. She wasn't just singling this person out.
But I
But
think,
again, you don't prepay. You and I have learned this, haven't we? You
yes,
don't prepay for the group, especially people you don't know.
don't do it. Don't.
Yeah. But that's coming up later. So we'll talk about that, all that cost and billing. But a lot of these brought up good memories for us and some things that we were like, that's interesting.
Right. So, and I think this is our is this our
It
last?
leads into, yeah, I think this is our last one.
This is our last one. Am I the asshole for expecting people to pay their fair share? Also, interesting scenario here, in a lot of room for,
Right. This difference of opinions and miscommunication.
okay, so every year my wife's family plans a beach trip. We usually require a large house for almost 30 people that go. For some reason, the cost gets divided by family and not by person, meaning that my wife and I, who have no kids, pay the same amount as her sister and brother-in-law, who have 5 kids. Accommodations for this trip year cost roughly $6,800. Divided by 8 families, it's about $850. However, if we were divided by person, it would cost my wife and I only about $650 together. I brought this up and she was adamant that this is the way it's always been, so that's just the way it is. So am I the asshole for not wanting to subsidize her sister's $2,300 vacation bill? Edit, for clarity, and I think this is important, the large families always get their own living space with a restroom, meaning their own room with a restroom. Meanwhile, my wife and I are stuck on an air mattress in someone else's room for our living space. So he's essentially saying, like, why is it per person when your sister and her husband with their 5 kids get a whole room with a bathroom and are paying substantially less than just you and I going and being in space with an air mattress, and we're all paying the same amount? So honestly, I do not think he's an asshole for questioning that at all, because that's a big difference between being 2 people and then having a family of 5.
Right.
I've had scenarios where I'm sharing spaces, or I do an Airbnb or whatever, but my bestie is a single guy and he likes his space. He makes good money. So when we book trips together, I always slate him for having his own bed with his own bathroom so he can do his privacy thing, watch his TV, listen to his music. And I understand that he's willing to pay the same amount as like my husband and I with 2 kids, where like, yes, we have them in a separate bed or we've got them on air mattresses. And we're all kind of squeezing in that room and sharing our bathroom space between 4 people and all that. So in that scenario, I can see it because we go into it with an understanding and we've had a discussion.
You've had communication.
And in this case, I think that is a little bit different. And what are your thoughts on that?
So 2 things. One, first of all, anytime I've ever done group travel, I ask, what's the expectation of the breakdown? What's the total cost? And then what's the expectation? Because I want to know if I'm comfortable with the breakdown. If I'm not, then I don't go on the trip. So in this instance, this sounds like this is what this family has done for years. This is how they do it. They make it equal for everyone going, no matter who, as far as cost wise. The problem here is they're not making sure everyone has the same amount of same sleeping arrangements. I think he's absolutely right in being frustrated of paying the same amount to sleep on an air mattress or stuck in someone else's room, sharing a room that someone paid the same price. I also think it's kind of like it's $200. That's the difference he's arguing about, is $200. How, I don't know. See, when it comes to things like this, I would have preferred you done it by room. If you want a room, you pay for the rooms. So if you're a family with 5 kids and you need 2 rooms, one for you and the spouse or you and the partner, and then one for the kids, you're paying for those 2 rooms. Let's break it up by rooms. Absolutely. Anybody that has to sleep on an air mattress or a couch is paying a very reduced cost. That's the way I would see it. In this situation, I think he's right to say, guys, I don't want to pay the same amount and sleep on an air mattress. I understand this is the way your family does it. How about I just sit this one out? Or I want a room. We look for another house that gives everybody a bed. You kind of have to ask again, everybody involved, who's okay? Because I'm okay sleeping on a couch.
I'm not.
I'm totally fine. A sofa bed, air mattress. Now, as I get older, maybe not, but camping, so I would be the one to say, okay, what is the situation here going into it? But I'm also not paying the same amount as someone who's got a king bed with an ensuite bathroom. I don't agree with that. I also wouldn't charge the same. I wouldn't break it down. So agreed. I think as a group, you have to decide, okay, here's the cost. What's the best fair way to break this down and what everybody's comfortable with? And it's okay to step out and say, I don't want to go because I'm not comfortable paying that price for what I'm getting. My money's worth what it's worth.
There has to be discussions of what the expectations are going into any vacation or travel trip. So yeah, this got us thinking about possibilities for an episode, because this is it's got a lot of layers in it. So traveling with people who aren't the same travel vibe is another one that we were talking about, right? Like if you're a morning person, not a morning person. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so while we were prepping for this episode, we had a lot of discussions. We didn't talk about we saved this part, actually our opinions on those. So, but it led us into things that actually made us write down other episodes. So we are looking at doing an episode where you guys get to give your feedback, give us your stories. And one of the topics we talked about was traveling with people who aren't on the same travel vibe as you.
Yeah.
So if you're super active and want to get up and go first thing in the morning, but your group doesn't, or even your your duo, if you're going as two people, how do you guys navigate that? Have you had that situation where you travel with someone and you're a morning person, they're a night person? Do you wait around all day for them? Do you go out and do it solo? Like, we want to hear your thoughts. What about when you're traveling with someone who's adventurous, but you're wanting a laid back kind of trip, or you just want museums and they want zip lining and hiking? How are you guys navigating that? Or have you gone on those trips where that's popped up, and how did you navigate it?
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that upcoming shows. And then what was the other one, Denise, that we talked about?
Also talking about, we got into this deep conversation about splitting the cost while traveling with other people. Like I'll give an example of girls trip. Been there, done that. And it gets a little iffy because, I eat like a bird. So imagine we're going to a restaurant and there's 6 of us, and some people are ordering a bunch of appetizers and food and then meals and then dessert, and then you're not a foodie and they just want to split the bill by 6 people. Like I've been in that situation. It's very, because you don't want to be the asshole that's like, guys, I had like a glass of wine and a side salad and you guys just ate 2 meals, 2 appetizers and desserts.
Right.
Honestly, should I be paying the same amount as everybody else that ate way more and drank way more than me? Or is there an expectation of you kind of just split it up and pay for what you actually consumed? And that's always been that's why you're not only a great work wife, but we're great travel buddies because we both eat like birds. So
Yeah.
sure, I can actually like get a glass of wine, share an appetizer, and be completely content. Like that's our meal. We just don't eat a lot. But
Right.
and my husband can put some food away. So he's like, you eat like a bird. But other people that's part of their going out to eat or going on vacation is I want to have the appetizers. I want to order the food. I want to eat all the food. And that's a very different travel style than other people. So we'd be interested to hear your situations, your scenarios, if you'd like to be on the show, or if you'd like to share an experience. You should check us out on suitcasedivas.com. We do have a section on our website for you to fill out a form and give us your information or tell us to reach out to you and that you want to be on the show, or you have a specific situation that you would like to discuss, something like that when you've been on a group travel situation and it's gotten a little iffy or outright, blowout because of splitting the cost via either a room or groceries, or the expectation. Sometimes we've been on family vacations where everybody's supposed to buy ingredients and you cook the meal for that night and you're in charge of the big group of people eating that night, and everybody takes cleanup duty, cooking duty, all that stuff. So it's not always one person that's cooking for everybody. Like, are you go on vacation and they're like, oh, Denise, hook us up with meals every night. And you're like, hey, it's my vacation.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the short order cook where they're like, I want this. And you're just like, you're really going out of your way to make it amazing for everybody else. But maybe you're not necessarily having the vacation that you deserve to not be cooking and cleaning every night on vacation. So we'd hear your feedback. Do you have any other final thoughts, Cheryl?
No, I think you covered it. We definitely want your stories. So we're not gonna make you the am I the asshole version. We want to hear what happened with you. So on our new website, by the way, suitcasedivas.com, we just redid it, had it so make sure you go check it out. We'll have a section on there for these two topics that we were talking about. So check that out and let us know your stories. We want to hear from you. That's
Yeah, and we're still looking for our cruise members for our Virgin Voyage. That's also on our website. So if you're interested in going on the cruise on 4/20/25, make sure you get to that site and fill out the forms and let us know that you want to come. We would love to hear from you guys. I think that does it for the day. Have a fabulous day, guys.
Bye, guys.